Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about college preteens and their mental health. And we are going to start by answering your questions, and we'll just kind of open it up to discussion. But before we get started, do you want to read a couple reviews?
I'm so excited about this one. This is Lauren in Atlanta. I'm a recent brain health coach graduate. Our brain health coaching certification course just been on fire. While studying the course, I suffered a mild traumatic brain injury. So I'm now also a patient. I'm so grateful to you both. There were two things that were so helpful for me in this podcast. One was that when you addressed grief, my family suffered a tragedy in May when my son's best friend and roommate passed away unexpectedly. The second, when you reinforced how serious the virus is. I see and hear so many people dismissing the seriousness of the virus. Thank you, Lauren. Another one from Jessica. You don't know what you don't know. I learned something new from every Brain Warrior podcast I listen to.
Love that.
The information is relevant and extremely helpful. I would highly recommend you stay tuned.
That's awesome. And so today, if you learn anything, please post it. If you want to take a selfie or a screenshot rather and post it and tag us, that would be awesome. You can also go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com and you can leave a message or a comment or a question in the comment section. And that will then give us the opportunity to read your questions and comments, which we love to do. And it will also enter you into a drawing for one of our books, either my cookbook, The Brain Warriors Way Cookbook, or your book, The End of Mental Illness. So please, we love your reviews. We love your questions and comments, but tell us what you learned. So we want to know think about this before we get started. How could your life be better? How could your life be improved? What would you do differently if you were able to address some of the issues that have been hounding you or following you for years?
All right, let's answer questions. So we're going to talk about preteens.
I'm going to do my librarian look today.
College students and their mental health. So we have a preteen here. I mean, she's 10, but she's going to be 11. We have
a 10, a 15, and a 17-year-old. The 17-year-old, I'm getting ready to go on. She hasn't been able to tour colleges. So we are getting ready to go on, in about a month, a little tour to go check out colleges, which she's been super anxious. Talk about anxiety. She's got to plan everything yesterday or like 2 weeks ago. And so this lack of ability to plan has been driving her crazy. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. So I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that, but getting your kids ready for college can be challenging, especially right now.
Well, and the most important thing you can do is take care of yourself.
Right.
Because if you're anxious, if you're afraid, if you're angry, COVID concussions with a level of anger going on is breathtaking, right? Divorce went up 34%. Because this is stressing us all. And so one, take care of your own mental health, model it. That's critical. Listen to them, empathize with them, because kids have lost a lot. From friends to Chloe's boyfriend really didn't have a graduation.
No, and he lost the thing that is his coping mechanism. I often talk about how exercise is mine. Well, he was on the tennis team and he got onto the tennis team in college and he played 4 hours a day. That's his stress relief. He hasn't been able to play at all. And that really sent him into a tailspin. So noticing these things and not just getting irritated with your kids, but understanding why are they acting this way? So question, why are they acting more anxious, more depressed, more irritable, more, all of these things? As soon as I saw him not being able to play tennis, I knew it was going to be a problem because I know how I get without my 1 hour of exercise. So
I know how you get without Please go exercise. Go. Teaching them. So you have to model this. So not believing every stupid thing you think, learning how to kill the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that steal your happiness, whenever you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking. Have the kids write down what they're thinking and help them turn those thoughts around to something that's healthier, that's more positive.
Well, and spending a little time explaining to them, and I think it's way harder when they're teenagers. Really teaching them about how food affects their brain and supplements. Supplements aren't as difficult, I think, as food because they've got so much peer pressure. We think of peer pressure for drugs. We don't think of peer pressure for food. And I got to tell you, it is way more difficult with a teenager than it was when they're little because I just controlled the food when she was little. So one of the things we do in our house with food is I know it sends Daniel into like just having a conniption fit sometimes when bad food comes into the house. So I'm like, what do we do? So because at this point, my daughter works full time. She has her own money, right? She's 17. So we have a deal. It's like, we're not going to buy that stuff. We have done our job training you. You understand why we feel this way. We love you. But if you're going to choose to eat a certain way, you are going to have to pay for that. And so that's really the best thing we can do on that one, but helping them understand why and not just like we're just being mean or extreme. But it actually affects your brain.
So you model it and you don't reinforce it. You make it their decision and then they have to pay for it.
And they pay the consequences.
I remember when we did this, when we were doing the Daniel plan and we went and cleaned out someone's kitchen, who basically said she was a healthy eater. And I'm like, so why the frosted flakes? And that's the only thing my son will eat.
And he was 17.
What did you say?
I'm like, it takes 30 days for kids to starve to death. So now, granted, I had a younger child and it was much easier to control the food. Now I understand teenagers are harder, but I still stick by my values. And it's like, if you get allowance, you work, you make your own money. I just can't, she's about to be an adult. So it's like, I can't tell her that anymore. She understands the principles. Now she has to make the choice. She has to pay the consequences. And here's the thing. We know, like even my daughter and my two nieces, they do understand the principles. They might pull away. They might push back because that's what kids do when they're breaking away from you at a certain age. But I notice whenever she starts to feel bad, she comes right back to it. So she pulls away, she comes back. So I know eventually she's going to come back to it. So how do you look after your mental health at college? So this must be from a college student, I'm thinking.
Or a parent. So hopefully you've planted the ideas ahead of time. And, going away to college now is just so weird because...
Well, most people aren't.
Well, no, there are a lot of people going away. And some people are really anxious, so they don't come out of their room. So they're likely to get more depressed. Other people, it's sort of a fight, the virus is real, the virus is not real. And there's this tension and you have to be careful. And, as we've said before on previous podcasts, the virus is real. But there's an interesting new study that shows that 90% of people who test positive for COVID-19 are actually not infectious. Now, you don't know who you are, but it's because the tests are so sensitive that it's picking up people who even have very low levels of the virus. And so we shouldn't be freaked out, but we should be thoughtful. And wearing masks is, it's controversial, except if you think about it, the places where mask wearing is not controversial: Singapore, Japan, China, Taiwan, even though they're either in or right next to the epicenter, have had dramatically fewer deaths. So Japan has a third of the United States population, about 120 million people, but they've only had 1,200 deaths. So it's like 2% of the United States death. And I think thinking about other people, wearing the masks, not shaking hands, being thoughtful is just an important part of keeping yourself safe.
And I like that as far as addressing right now what's going on with the virus. But in general, one of the things that I would say about how do you keep your mental health intact going away to college? Some of the stuff we just said, food is huge. Sleep. I think one thing that changes when kids first move away from home and they're going to college and they're all of a sudden responsible for everything on their own when they never have been, they don't sleep for many reasons. They're studying, they're socializing, they're worrying, and they don't sleep. And so,
and it's also one reason I'm a fan of homeschooling. Mm-hmm. And when Chloe did homeschooling starting in eighth grade, she got an extra hour, at least a day of sleep. And
more like 2.
Children who sleep an hour less than their peers have a higher incidence of depression. Yeah. So sleep is just critical.
And we have podcasts just on sleep. So I would highly recommend you listen to our podcast on sleep hygiene with Dr. Criado. We actually have a course on sleep hygiene as well. So super important. And that's where I would start, is with sleep. You always say fix sleep first.
Especially when you're dealing with grief. Fix sleep first. You just feel so much better. What did you learn today? Write it down. Post it on any of your social media sites. So write it down, take a picture, post it on any of your social media sites, and hashtag Brain Warriors Way podcast. We would be so grateful. Go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com, leave a comment, question, or a review, and we'll enter you into a raffle to win one of our books. And at the end of this week, we'll tell you who the 2 winners are. Stay with us. Are you looking for ways to heal ADD, enhance your memory, conquer anxiety, depression, insomnia, autism, and other conditions? Hi, I'm Dr. Tana Amen. We provide courses based on what we've learned over 30 years of clinical practice. We also offer accredited courses geared to physicians, therapists, and students looking to get ahead. Are you ready to change your brain and change your life? Get started today. Welcome back, everyone. We are so excited that you're with us. You know, I know these are crazy times. We're going to continue to answer some of your questions. And in this podcast, it's going to be, is it depression, anxiety, OCD, or all of the above?
I love that. So before we get started, we're going to read a couple reviews, and please post a screenshot of yourself and send it to us, tag us, but also send us your questions, your concerns, and your comments. If you go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com to the comment section, you can leave us a question, comment, or review. We really, really love your reviews. We appreciate them. They're what help us keep going and keep us, rated higher. And share what you've learned. And we want to know how this information is helping you, and what if you could change something affecting you. Just think about that through the episode. If there's something bothering you, what would you do differently if you could change it?
So this is from the United Kingdom, Inked 9. The work of Amen Clinics, books, and podcasts has been a defining mission in my life for caring about human health, and the wisdom is abundant and helpful. This motivated me to join the Brain Health Coaching Certification course. Thank you. I can't be more grateful for Daniel and Tana for doing this podcast on top of everything they do. Thank you. And then from Progress Forever, I am ADD, and I think my son too. Your tips and tricks are so helpful to deal with our brains. I would love to give you 10 stars if I can. Thank you for everything.
That's so great.
So is it depression, anxiety, OCD, or all of the above? It's such an interesting question.
It is.
And we make diagnoses based on symptom clusters with no biological data. And on average, people come to Amen Clinics have 4.2 diagnoses. They have failed 3.3 providers and 5 medications. So I'm just not a fan of how we diagnose things, because you can meet so many different diagnostic criteria when basically your emotional brain is working too hard. We call it stuck in overdrive, and you can't sleep, and you're anxious, and you're worried, and if things don't go a certain way, you can get upset. And you could like list all of, but the question really is, what are you struggling with, and how can you help it? And I generally think of OCD, where you can't get rid of bad thoughts or bad behaviors, right? It's like you have a scratch on a record, and the thought or the behavior just loops and goes over and over again. Anxiety is where you're just masterful at predicting the worst and have physical stress symptoms, muscle tension, headaches, tummy aches, can't sleep, diarrhea. And depression is, just this sort of chronic sadness. One of my patients yesterday described it as a cloud that
it's like
always follows her.
For me, it was like mud. Can't walk through it. So one thing I love about you, even though sometimes it frustrates me, but mostly I love it, is that you just are really resistant to labeling people with anything until you really figure out what's going on with them, right? And I mean, I've got family members where I'm like, I know what's wrong with them. They're just a royal pain in the blank. But you don't do that. You're just you are very, very thoughtful about how to break down what's happening for a person. And one of our questions is, why is ADD misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder or OCD? And that's a really interesting question, because the other thing, there are a lot of things that are misdiagnosed as bipolar that I've noticed. Things like PCOS, which I had. Now, I wasn't diagnosed with bipolar, but people thought I had like this very masculine, intense drive, which
you did.
Which that for women is not considered a normal thing. So that then makes people look at you like, why is that person so intense or so driven? And then that can cause problems.
Part of it was the PCOS for women. That's polycystic ovarian syndrome, where their ovaries have multiple cysts. Those cysts produce androgens, testosterone.
The testosterone is too high.
And they can be more intense.
More aggressive.
And when we discovered that and treated her, I got this most bizarre phone call. I'm at work. I remember it like it's yesterday. So our first fight was on the kind of dog that we were going to get. I wanted this cute little King Charles Cavalier, a lap dog. You want to just pet him, makes you happy.
No.
And
I like
she
big
wanted
protection dogs.
Killer.
No.
Yes, you wanted
but I
killer.
like Mastiffs, Shepherds, Dobies, Rotties.
And then, so we get her PCOS treated, and she calls me up, and she found a pocket poodle online. And she said, don't you think that would just
4
be
pounds.
So cute to have a little dog you could put in your purse? And I'm like, who stole my wife? It's like, did aliens come and just occupy her body? And then we end up with this little yappy thing, Tinkerbell of all things. And I'm like, how did this happen?
But along with that was also, I started nesting. I didn't want to be I always wanted to be on go, work out 2 hours a day just to burn off the energy. And so all of that sort of settled down. I wanted to be home more. I was more cuddly. And I thought something was wrong with me, to be quite honest with you. So for this person who's asking, I think people get misdiagnosed because that kind of drive, not just from PCOS, but from when you've got intense drive of any kind, sometimes people look at it and other people on the outside are like, whoa, that's like not normal energy. And so that's one of the things I just wanted to address. At our clinics, what we do is we take your whole profile, right? We're going to test your blood. We're going to look at your brain. We're going to look at your nutrient levels, your hormones. And that's why it's just so important, so you don't get misdiagnosed.
So let me answer this question specifically, because ADD often gets misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder. So bipolar disorder, like the name implies, is you go between two poles, that you have periods where you're normal, periods where you're manic. So it's also called manic depressive disorder. Manic is you have extra energy, you don't need to sleep, your thoughts go fast, you can become hypersexual, hyper religious, spend money impulsively. You can even become psychotic and believe you're an agent of the Russians, or that the NSA is tapping your phone, except the
they
NSA
are. Right.
they are tapping
They
your
are.
phone. Anyways, I digress. It's clearly a period of time that's way different than your usual state. And then that could go on weeks, sometimes even months. And then you cycle to either normal or to the other pole where you're depressed. You can't get out of bed, you're sad, you're negative, you have suicidal thoughts, you have no energy, you can't think, you're flooded with automatic negative thoughts, and you're up and then you're down. And they're weeks to months at a time. People have ADD can go through that 6 times a day. Where they get a storm of ideas and then they're sad. But
That's
it's
hilarious.
not to the magnitude. They're sort of always restless. They're sort of always a bit impulsive. They're always distracted.
But are they as intense?
Generally not. And that's how you can tell. And they're not psychotic. And
because we've got someone, I have a family member who I think she's bipolar, but the extreme rages, and like it's not quite the same as people I know with ADD who are just goofy and they can be goofy, they can make goofy decisions, they can be impulsive, and they're kind of funny actually a lot of times, or annoying with the impulsiveness. But this is different. It's like really intense. And it seems like, to me, it seems like drugs. It looks like this person is on drugs when that happens. Don't you think it can look like that?
It certainly can.
In fact, I've accused her of being on drugs when in fact I found out that she was in this manic phase. So
getting the proper diagnosis is critical to getting the right treatment. And that's where, imaging is so helpful.
Blood
or working
work.
with a psychiatrist that really understands. Now, OCD, and sometimes OCD and ADD are actually confused with each other.
Mm-hmm.
With ADD, you have trouble paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
With OCD, you actually have trouble shifting your attention. And both look like you can't pay attention. But, the hallmark symptoms of ADD, short attention span, distractibility, restlessness, disorganization, procrastination, and impulse control issues. With OCD, you get bad thoughts called ego dystonic. You don't like these thoughts, bad thoughts that loop and they go over and over and over again. Or ego dystonic behaviors like checking locks, not stepping on cracks, having to have things done just a certain way, or you get very anxious or often very upset. So knowing the right diagnosis is critical to getting the right help.
So what'd you learn today? Post it, tag us, leave us a question, comment, or review. Go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com and leave it in the comments section. It'll enter you into the drawing for one of our books, either my cookbook, The Brain Warriors Way cookbook, or your book, The End of Mental Illness. Thank you.
Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. We are so happy that you're staying with us. We love being with you, especially during this very weird, unusual time. And so, you know the drill by now. If there's one thing you learn, write it down, take a picture, and post it. In this episode, we're going to talk about pandemic-related anxiety. So, who hasn't?
I feel like that's all we've been talking
anxious?
about for 3 months, but
So, and one of the questions we got from Belcho is, how do you control inner anxiety?
yeah. That's interesting because we've been hearing about it everywhere I go. For the short time salons were open, actually they opened here yesterday again, and I went and got my hair done. The stylists are talking about it. Some think it's all ridiculous. Others are extremely nervous. When you go to the grocery store, people are anxious. Everywhere you go, people are anxious. So how do you control it? Like, let's talk about some tips and strategies.
Well, you do what you can do.
Right.
That's the first thing, is you don't believe every stupid thing you think. You know this well. Turn off the news.
That was the first thing I did. So I noticed that when the news was on, I was screaming at the TV and just annoyed all day long. And when the TV's off, I have no flipping idea what's happening, and I like it that way.
And I'll look at it for 10 minutes a day just to have a sense.
I literally ask him, is there anything critical I need to know? Because when I turn the TV on, I just get way too hooked.
And know that COVID-19 is serious. You don't want it. But even for the people who get it, 90% of the positive tests, those people are actually not infectious to other people. So know that. And wearing a mask, because I say this a lot, it's actually a sign of love because you're protecting other people. And you're going to hear my book in March coming out called Your Brain is Always Listening. I talk about the dragons from the past. This is new. You haven't heard this yet. That people who won't wear their masks, they have this special spoiled or entitled dragon that thinks the world owes them something.
I'm not sure that's true.
Be careful that it's just a symbol of love. Now, the problem with masks in large part, in our genes, masks have been programmed.
There's a lot of reasons people resist wearing a mask.
Afraid.
Yeah, I'm going to push back
to be afraid that, oh, he has a mask or she has a mask, he's going to rob me, she's going to hurt me.
And also there are people who have things like autism, makes it hard to put masks on people. There are people who, like, after a while, I stay home because I feel nauseous.
Right. No, it's complicated, but at the same time, I never want to do anything that makes other people upset.
Right.
And so if, for example, you have asthma and you can't, or autism, then work with the stores. And, my family owns a chain of grocery stores, and they'll actually do the shopping for people.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or they will let them shop after hours when there's not a lot of people.
So COVID is only one of the reasons people are feeling anxious. There's so much societal unrest, and on both sides of the fence, people are angry and upset, and it's just a mess. And that was the thing that got to me. I mean, I dealt with flesh-eating bacteria in the hospital, crazy stuff. So I always had, through COVID, I felt like, yeah, this is serious, but I feel like I can deal with it, right? I sort of felt like my training gave me the ability to deal with it. But when the societal unrest came, that was different. One thing that really helped me, and I don't know that everybody has this opportunity, but I would suggest it as a solution, a potential solution for those of you who can. I love this. It was amazing. Our friend, Pastor Miles McPherson, who is a Black minister, has a huge church called The Rock in San Diego. And we were able to sit down and have this incredibly raw, open conversation about some of what's happening in the world, fears on both sides. And it was just, honestly, it's not that it fixes anything. It just helps bridge. I feel like until those conversations can happen, there's just always going to be gaps, right? And that is just, it was a beautiful thing to be able to just communicate with people. So I would just highly suggest it. It was just very healing.
All right. How to control sad feelings without medication. Write this down. Exercise. So important. Happy Saffron from Brain MD. Really great. Whenever you feel sad, write it down. Question the automatic negative thoughts you have. And then bright light in the morning. So Brain MD actually makes the Bright Minds therapy lamp behind me for half an hour in the morning. Really, it's been shown to boost mood, to boost energy, to boost focus, and to help reset your sleep. And then something Tana teaches called positivity bias training. When you wake up in the morning, say to yourself, today is going to be a great day. And before you go to bed at night, what went well.
Yeah,
and really focus on those.
My tendency is to notice the negative. And one thing that I did in addition to that was find a partner, a friend, who she and I keep each other accountable by sending each other texts every day about what we're grateful for. And that was really helpful also.
Good. When we come back, we're going to talk about Brain in the News and also make an announcement on some of the winners.
The winners for books.
We're very excited. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We are talking about Brain in the News in this episode. But before we get into Brain in the News, we have some winners to announce. And also make sure you go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com, leave us a comment, review, questions, and make sure you go to social media, tag us, and share this episode. Tell us what you've learned.
So the first winner is Meryl64. And if you did the review on iTunes, we actually don't have your contact information. So make sure to go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com and give us your contact information in the contact
So if you
section.
are Meryl64, go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com and let us know.
Yeah. And she writes in, wow, my mama, 83, has dementia. I'm so concerned about developing this myself. I'm learning so much about brain health through this podcast. I can't put into words how much I've learned. Thank you, Cheryl.
Awesome.
The other winner is Becca_Sok, S-O-K. I've loved listening to this podcast and learning so much about brain health and how to help your body heal naturally. Highly recommend this podcast if you're wanting to change.
Love that.
Thank you so much.
So what have we got?
Well, I have to talk about a study that came out this morning.
Oh, what?
And
did you tell me?
First thing, I did what I woke you up with.
Oh,
first thing,
this is what I get woken up with.
I'm like, did you know that
what happens when you're nerds?
Cats.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Increase happiness.
Except when he barfs up hairballs on my new furniture.
They increase happiness. So petting your cat, training your cat, even feeding your cat, probably not so much doing the kitty litter box, has been shown to increase blood flow to the front part of the brain, especially the underside of your prefrontal cortex in the middle, medial inferior prefrontal cortex. Guess what? That's the happy part of the brain. And so I know, I sent a note out to my team and one of my doctors went, no, they don't make you happy. They're planning your death.
Yeah, no, that's true too. So all of the above is true. So what did I tell you? I said, so here's the thing. My cat is the reason he's still here and healthy is because, they can annoy, I swear he plans on where to cough up a hairball, where it will be the most damaging and irritating. He plans it. He also plans on how to kill me. When he's hungry, he darts right in front of my feet, jumps on my legs, like he's crazy. But then, and I get so irritated with him. But then in the morning when I wake up, he's so cute. He's got this little voice and he like calls to me and he's so sweet. And I'm like, it just erases all
But do you
of it.
notice how he takes his paws and
Yes, he wraps them around you and he like nuzzles you.
you.
Yeah, and then it just erases all of the annoying things he does.
Makes you happy.
It's like kids.
So
Yeah.
pets are really important.
They really are. Anyone else, write in, tell us if your cat tries to kill you, because I don't know if it's just my cat or if it's your cat too. Okay, what have we got? So exercise. Oh boy, is this true? Exercise fights off stress by increasing levels of the brain protein galanin, according to research in mice recently published in the Journal of Neuroscience. This is so true. I mean, exercise. I never understood why. It is the number one thing that boosts my mood. So I know it actually helps with dopamine and serotonin. Apparently it helps with galanin. It helps with BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, so which helps with anti-aging. So talk about this.
Well, exercise helps so many things: boost blood flow, boost dopamine, boost serotonin. Head-to-head against antidepressants been shown to be equally effective. The most important exercise you can do, however, is coordination exercises, where you're activating your cerebellum, that back bottom part of the brain, that when you activate that, it actually turns on the rest of your brain. So exercise is really important. One more study quickly. Specific fungi in the gut are associated with a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease and found in people with mild cognitive impairment. And it can be altered, lessened by eating a modified Mediterranean diet. This is research out of Wake Forest School of Medicine. Your diet really
So
matters.
are they talking more keto oriented, like low sugar is what I'm guessing?
No, it's healthy, lots of plants and vegetables. Lots of plants and vegetables. So you have the good, because all fungi, I think mushrooms, are not bad. Candida, bad, can overgrow
but
and
sugar
cause a
feeds
lot of
it.
problems. And sugar feeds it. But eating colorful fruits and vegetables can really help. Now, BrainMD has a brand new product called Neurogreens.
It's actually great in my smoothie.
Good.
Yeah.
But it's loaded with antioxidants. And we're actually going to change the name over time to Happy Greens. And we have a new mushroom product.
Yeah, don't name it Happy Shrooms.
I wanted to name it Happy Shrooms, but I couldn't. So we're going to come up with smart mushrooms or something. No, smart mushrooms is what they are, because they've been found to not only help your mood, to not only help your immune system, but also to help with cognitive function. So, whenever you read the paper, we just love for you to go, okay, what are brain articles in the news, and send them to us. And whenever you leave us a comment, question, or review, we will enter you into a drawing, as we talked about earlier, to win either the Brain Warriors Way cookbook, Tana's book, or the End of Mental Illness. So whatever you learned today, write it down, post it on any of your social media sites, leave us a review. We always love that, either on iTunes or the Brain Warriors Way podcast. Take care.
Thank you. If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're considering coming to Amen Clinics or trying some of the brain healthy supplements from BrainMD, you can use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com, or a 10% discount on all supplements at brainmdhealth.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.